It's March 2nd right now, and Mars is conjunct Pluto and 27 degrees Capricorn. Along with that, Venus not far behind. I read Venus Pluto when that was going on, and I wanted to read Mars Pluto now, and so let me just get started on that. So, when transiting Pluto aspects Mars, it is a time for us to learn more about our aggressive drives, power urges, desire nature, and sexuality. In many cases, the effects of these transits can be quite dramatic, especially when transiting Pluto conjuncts, squares, or opposes Mars. Transiting Pluto, trine, and sextile Mars generally are easier to handle. So Pluto burrows beneath our usual boundaries and defenses. It will thus spring out of hiding and force us to confront any planetary energy it aspects by transit. If we have not been in touch with our aggression, a Pluto transit to Mars will force us to come to terms with this part of our nature. Just as the sexual drive is an essential part of our human instinctive behavior, so too is aggression. The natural or root aggression we are born with makes it possible for us to grow and to master life, and is a force that provides the impetus to move forward, learn new skills, and evolve into all that we could become. If we have been lazy and have allowed other people to tell us what to do and where to go, a Pluto transit to Mars can have the effect of waking us up. Something happens and we discover a drive for power or urge for self-expression we didn't know was there. Under these transits, we may find, perhaps for the first time, that if what it is we really want in life and connect with the will and energy needed to implement and realize these desires. Suddenly, there are goals we are determined to achieve, places we are determined to go, things we definitely want to learn and do, and people we no longer will allow to stand in our way. However, if we already have a grip on our Mars and for years have been forging ahead in a definite direction, a Pluto-Mars transit could actually stop us dead in our tracks. External circumstances may come and block us, and it is impossible or just not feasible to carry on in the direction we have been heading. Or we lose interest in our present endeavors. What we have been seeking no longer seems relevant. Something inside says, hold on, it's time to take stock and reconsider your drives and desires. During this period, it may feel as if we have no goals or desires at all, but this is an in-between stage when the old isn't working, but the new hasn't made itself felt. We may just have to sit and wait until new drives and fresh desires take hold. Like the sun, Mars is an animist principle and represents that part of us which seeks to express our individuality through action, assertion, and power. In a woman's chart, a Pluto transit to Mars could serve to put her in touch with animist energy inside her. If she has been too passive and submissive, Pluto-Mars transits most likely will make her aware of a need to assert herself in her own right. Dreams about male figures, especially ones who are violent or who chase and try to attack her, are indications that the animist is awakening. However, if she has been too dominated by her animist side, Pluto-Mars transits could have the effect of blocking or stifling temporarily her aggression and assertion in an attempt to help her discover ways to relate to the world other than through her Mars. Pluto-Mars transits also activate animist issues for men, and if a man has not been living out his assertive side, he'll probably discover it under these transits. However, if he is too animist-driven, then Pluto-Mars transits could be the time when he needs to learn how to alter or temper his overpowering drive or ambition. That reminds me of Vladimir Putin, who's invading Ukraine right now, and that would need to, like with this, the Mars Venus, it was squaring his stellium in Libra, and so that only like exacerbated his like resolve to invade Ukraine, and he's facing like some struggles right now, but yeah, that's this. He clearly comes to mind right now as this is going on, and my prayers are with the people of Ukraine. So far, we have discussed two different ways in which Pluto transits act on Mars. In the first instance, these transits awaken a previously latent or hidden assertive nature, Whereas in the second, our assertive side is already active, but Pluto changes the focus of our aims and drives or modifies the manner in which we vent our aggression. As a general rule, transiting Pluto will intensify whatever, number one, intensify whatever planetary energy it aspects by transit, or two, will challenge and transform the usual way we express the principles represented by that planet. For example, consider the effects of Pluto-Mars transits on the expression of anger or aggression. If up to now we really have not been in touch with our anger, a Pluto-Mars transit could reveal a bottled up rage which we hadn't even suspected was there. Some degree of anger in life is healthy. We need it to fight injustice or to deal with people and things that are blocking us getting on with what it is we feel we have to do. But a Pluto-Mars transit, in particular, transiting Pluto conjunct, as it is now, square or opposing Mars, will often reveal a different kind of anger, a much earlier, more primitive, infantile rage that has been buried deep inside us for a long time. And this kind of rage is anything but civil. However, for those of us who have always exhibited a tendency towards anger and rash behavior, Pluto-Mars transits will serve a different purpose. We don't need to discover our deep rage. We already know it's there and are frequently taken over by it. Instead, our lesson is to transmute or redirect that destructive anger into more useful or constructive channels. In these instances, Pluto-Mars transits have an uncanny way of stirring anger at the same time as creating circumstances which make it impossible or impractical to express our venom. Rather than unleashing our rage and attacking other people, we have to find alternative ways to give expression to our anger or find the root cause of our anger and frustration in order to eradicate it. For example, a woman came for a reading who had transiting Pluto in Scorpio conjuncting her natal Mars. She was not someone who needed to discover her belligerent side, since all her life, her immediate response to people who frustrated or hurt her had been to hurl rage and abuse at them. In the course of 35 years, she had managed to accrue 2 broken marriages, a whole string of friendships that had ended badly, numerous jobs she had stormed out of, and 3 lawsuits lodged against people she felt had maligned her. At the time of our reading, she was very angry at her father over a remark he had made about her. However, he was so ill and in such a confused state that she didn't feel right about expressing that anger directly to him. She found herself in an awkward situation. Her normal pattern would be to act out her rage, but in this case, she felt that the circumstances prohibited her from doing so. The Pluto-Mars transit was asking that she deal with her anger differently than she would have done in the past. Pluto wanted her to transform the use of her Mars energy to contain it and sit with it rather than unleash it. Over the following few months, she joined a dance and movement class, which allowed her some physical expression of these emotions. She took time each day to write about her feelings and explore the kinds of frustration and hurt she carried in her from her childhood. In doing so, she not only physically discharged her anger, but she was also able to use her rage as a way of looking more deeply into her psyche and early complexes. When transiting Pluto conjuncts, squares, or opposes natal Mars, we may be feeling violent, although many of us will do what we can to deny it. However, if we try to suppress these feelings, we increase our chances of provoking others to be violent towards us. And this is true of any hard transit of Pluto to Mars, but especially in the case of transiting Pluto opposing Mars. What we deny in ourselves, we tend to attract from others. Denying our violent feelings can also can result in these emotions turning inward against the self, manifesting in the form of self-destructive urges and behavior. More likely in the case of Pluto conjunct Mars, as it is now, or even illness. If we can find the courage to face our anger and rage, we lessen the risk of attracting it from the outside and stem the dangers inherent in allowing it to fester inwardly. Again, owning our violence does not mean having to live it out. Once it is acknowledged, we have the opportunity to find other ways to work it with it or direct that energy. Under Pluto-Mars transits, we can sublimate, redirect, or learn more about our Mars energy through various kinds of external outlet. For instance, the aggressive urge and need to exert power and influence could be satisfied by joining causes and organizations in which we fight for changes we feel need to be made in society. Some people may become involved with projects designed to battle poverty or disease. Or we could test our assertiveness and power through bodybuilding, competitive sports, or by pitting ourselves against the elements, camping, climbing, or sailing. It's not only assertiveness and aggression that Pluto transits to Mars stir and alter. These transits can also affect our sexual nature and drive. There are a few general rules we can apply here. Number one, people who have been out of touch with their sexuality could wake up to its existence. And number two, people who are already venting their sexual drives quite openly or freely may find that Pluto-Mars transits inhibits or blocks their usual mode of expression and ultimately changes the way they relate sexually to others. Obviously, how these transits manifest depends a great deal on age. If we are 15 years old and transiting Pluto aspects Mars, it is likely to manifest in issues relating to the awakening of sexuality. Teenagers under these transits could become obsessed with sex or frightened by the strong feelings and compulsions it arouses in them. In certain cases, they may be the victims of sexual abuse. In adults, Pluto-Mars transits can also indicate the need to confront and to understand better their sexuality. These transits may force people to acknowledge sexual frustration and difficulties. One woman who came for a reading had been married for 20 years and had never felt sexually satisfied with her husband. She had put up with the problem for all that time, but when transiting Pluto squared her Mars, she could no longer tolerate the situation. Unable to resolve the sexual problems with her husband, she left him and soon after became involved with a man with whom she found a fulfilling physical relationship. In another case, a man had been celibate for most of his life, but when transiting Pluto conjuncted his Mars, he finally acknowledged his homosexuality and joined a group through which he could meet other men. These examples illustrate how Pluto compels us into the sphere represented by the planet it is aspecting by transit. However, Pluto can also have the effect of blocking, inhibiting, or altering sexual expression, especially if our tendency has been to misuse or overdo that energy. Previously celibate people may discover sex under these transits, but the converse is also true. If we have a pattern of promiscuity or have been dominated by our sexual drives and appetites, a Pluto transit to Mars could bring experiences which result in our changing these trends. One stage of the process of change may involve temporarily losing our sexual drive. We might fear that it is gone forever, later to discover that it returns but with a different quality. Pluto-Mars transits can affect our sexual expression, aggressive urges, the animist side of our nature, or the way we pursue our goals. Transiting Mars conjunct, square, or opposing natal Mars in particular can be very difficult, and not everyone will succeed in handling these times in a positive way. But if we can face and successfully deal with such transits, they offer a tremendous opportunity for psychological growth, personality development, and for the wise and judicious use of our strengths. So again, I'm reading from this book, The Gods of Change, Pain, Crisis, and the Transits of Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto. And I wish you all well.